It is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I am in my pajamas, and that means one thing: it is time for a pajama project. What are we doing? Well, we're doing what Takealot hasn't done in 8 years. So what is Takealot, and why is it 8 years? Well, Takealot is probably one of the biggest e-commerce retailers in South Africa, and 8 years ago, they bought a company called Mr. Delivery. They've since rebranded Mr. Delivery to Mr. D Food, which kind of operates like Uber Eats. Order your food from a restaurant, you get some tracking information, you can follow the driver along, and you get your food. And that's great, but the reason I bring it up is because even though Takealot owns that technology, their arrival time estimate for when you order off the e-commerce site is any time between 8 in the morning and 5 in the evening, which is a massive window. And it's kind of crummy because you just sit there waiting the whole day, not really being able to leave or go out or do anything else. And yeah, why they haven't done that, I don't know. So what are we going to do about it? Well, first off, we've got to figure out what programming language we're going to work in. We've got to figure out what exactly we want to do in that programming language. And thirdly, we need to decide kind of how far do we want to go with it. So I've chosen Python because, one, I know Python and I don't really want to have to learn anything just to do a project like this. Secondly, I know there's a Google Maps API for the Python project. And thirdly, why I chose Python is because, well, Takealot uses Python. So I think second on the list was what exactly is it that we're going to do in this programming language. And I don't think real-time tracking is practical. One, because that's there's a driver and there's privacy throughout the day and all of those things. But also, it doesn't really give the user information. The same problem happens, right? It just becomes oh, we've left the last place. We'll be at your place in 10 minutes. You still need to be available the whole day in order to respond to that. So what I think I want to try and do is give a window where a customer might expect a parcel to arrive. I think a 1 hour window is reasonable, because then that goes from, I don't know, however long 8 to 5 is, down to just 1 hour where you need to be sure that you're there and available and paying attention. So how are we going to do this? Well, I mentioned the Google Maps API, and so I'm going to look at their Python examples and try and make sense of it. But ultimately what I want to do is have a list of addresses for any particular route. Say there's a parcel to be delivered at each address. Then in the beginning, run this script which will go, okay, the time taken to travel from point A to point B is this long, so we arrive at point B at this time. Add a little buffer for the delivery or the handover. And then say, okay, the time from point B to point C is this long. And, add a little buffer for the delivery. And then cascade that through the list. Then add a buffer of maybe, well, it would be a half hour on either side of the arrival. And say, oh, this is the estimated time when your parcel will arrive. So please make sure you're at the delivery address at that time. And I think that's a lot more useful to a customer than just be oh, be there the whole day, good luck. Which is not, it's not a good experience, right? So, yeah. And third on the list was, how far are we going to take this? Well, it's a pajama project. I'm not going to do graphical UIs and everything. It is purely just going to be a Python script with some text output. Maybe I can make the text output a bit neater. Maybe I can do some calculations to see how long the driver will be on the road for I don't know, health reasons for the driver or something. But yeah, we're going to keep it super simple, and we're going to see how quickly we can bang out something that'll give us a decent time delivery estimate. So the first thing I need to do is figure out how to set up my dev environment and what the heck is going on with the Python API and, well, the Python Google Maps API and how that's all going to work. So it is now 20 past 3. I'm going to get started on that, and I'll see you back in a bit. I recorded the whole previous section without audio. Anyway, point is, it's 4 o'clock now. I've done 2 examples and I've learned something important, and that is if we set this mode to driving, we get a result in the API. So that was the first one. You can ignore that. we get a result from the API called duration in traffic, which is different from just duration. So you know how if you're on Google Maps, you get that whole like, oh, leave now, it'll take you this long, usually however long. I think this is how long it'll take you if like, you leave now or if you're scheduled to leave at a specific time. And this is how long it would generally take you on average. So I think we're going to use this value, duration in traffic, because I'm hoping that as we update our departure time, because we'll be adding the travel time to the new departure time, that it'll update the duration in traffic and cater for that for us. Because that's the whole point of using an API, right? We don't want to have to think about these things. We get Google Maps to do it. So we're making progress. I defined what I think is a decent data structure for the name of a location and just the address, that I'm just going onto Google Maps and clicking on random locations and copying their addresses. They're just random. And I think I'm going to do that for maybe 10 more addresses. And I'm going to loop all of this logic to try and make it a bit more succinct. And yeah, I mean, so the directions result is everything from the API. But if I make a nice little sentence there, I can see that the time to travel from warehouse from warehouse to A is 11 minutes. And that's the kind of information we need. So from that, we have like right now, right? We're saying we're leaving right now. So we'll take right now, we'll add 11 minutes, we'll add our 5 minutes delivery buffer time, and we'll set that as the new departure time to go from location A to location B. And that'll give us our next result. We'll go through the whole list, get a whole bunch of results, and we'll get then the window of, or like the estimated window time for each of those locations. So yeah, just after 1 minute past 4, I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to see how far I get and how quickly I can do this. But first, I'm going to grab some coffee because coffee. That's the good stuff. So it's 25 to 5, and I think I'm just about done. A lot has changed in this file, so we're just going to run through it quickly. I've pulled out the addresses into a separate file, just in case there is an address in there that people would rather keep private. So I'm not going to push that to the Git repo, but I have just left a comment here. Maybe I'll write a README before pushing this to GitHub. That the delivery list is just a list of dictionaries. And a dictionary in Python is just a data structure which has a key and value pair. So yeah, that's what has happened there. I've created 3 global variables, I guess, for lack of a better word. I don't know what you'd call them in Python. But we set a start, and we've just set that to right now, right? Like, it's just easiest because I could compare the values that I'm getting in my script to like the values I might get on Google Maps. I've also created a delivery buffer. So this is how long, just like an estimated time in minutes each delivery can take to complete. I've never done deliveries like this, so I don't know. Also a delivery window. So this is the window around the estimated arrival time that customers would get. So like in this case, they're going to get an hour-wide delivery estimate. I've created a function which makes a call to the API for a start location, a destination, and what time we want to leave the start location. And it just returns the value in seconds. And I thought seconds was better because it's more accurate. And if we add up minor inaccuracies over a long period, well, over many iterations, those inaccuracies basically grow and we deviate from the correct result more and more and more. So if this script is run, this is what happens. We create a Google Maps object. We set our first departure time to the start time that we defined at the top of our script. I'm also keeping track of a total route time. This kind of just how long is the driver on the road, which I think is something actually pretty important to take care of, because we don't want people out there driving for like ridiculous amounts of time. And we can say like, okay, cool, take a break after this many deliveries because, then you've been on the road for like 4 hours. It's a good time to just like relax a bit. I don't know how it works. I've never driven for Takealot. But I thought that would be a pretty good idea to put in there. Cool. So I have a loop that goes through all the addresses. I make a call to this function above to get the travel time in seconds. I then say that, this is the time we can expect to arrive, which is the departure time plus the travel time in seconds. I then set the next departure time already, which is the time we arrive, plus that delivery buffer window. Time delta is just something from the path and date time library, which makes it really easy to add up times and durations and means I don't have to think about it because I don't want to have to think about things I don't have to think about. I'm not a professional developer. I'm barely a person. Anyway, add to the total route time so we can keep track of how long the driver's been driving. And now we generate some stuff to print out something pretty to the user of the script. So we just get their arrival date. We get the lower bound of their arrival time window and the upper bound. And that we just take the arrival time when we subtract 30 minutes and add 30 minutes. And then we print out, this address can expect their delivery on this date between this time and this time. And we do that for each address. And then right at the end, after we've gone through all addresses, we just print out that, the driver can expect to spend this much time on the road. And let me copy this output and post it in Scratch. This is pretty much what the output will produce. So we can see like, address 1 can expect the delivery on the 15th of Jan, which is today, between 4:03 and 17:03. And then this all just cascades, right? So we have the travel time plus the delivery time. Now, is this reasonable? I think so. I think this is a massive improvement above what is currently in place at Takealot. So why haven't they done it? Because I have taken less than 2 hours to implement this. And it's not like it needs to be a fancy UI or anything. We get an SMS with this estimated time window. So why is it like this? This idea has been in the back of my head for quite a while. And I knew I wanted to eventually make a video on it. So I started talking to drivers occasionally, if they were willing to answer a couple of questions, obviously, about how this whole process works. And it seems like the whole thing is they pitch up at the warehouse, they get a designated bunch of deliveries, and then they're on their own to deliver. So I don't know if Takealot actually takes into account like route planning and delivery times and time spent on the road. But I think they surely must, right? They're not going to, at least I hope they don't give drivers deliveries that are scattered all around, I don't know, the city, like the province, the country. So surely there must be like smaller warehouses where they put these things, like the address is in this area, just give it to them. Which in that case, I can kind of understand that they don't have this information or that they're not processing any route calculations. They just pass it off to a warehouse that serves an area, and then drivers work within that area. Maybe that's what they do. But that kind of sucks, because how do we ensure that drivers aren't spending like way longer on the road than they need to, right? So we should do route planning. And if we're doing route planning, why can't we present this information to the customer at the end of the day? Because if we have the route planned out, we can really easily give much better time estimate windows. So I'm not sure if we're not getting that because Takealot just isn't considering it. But I really hope they do for the sake of the drivers. Because speaking to them, like, they're not really that happy. Like, a job is a job, obviously, and they're grateful for that. But of the ones that I've spoken to, all of their, like, the first criticism is like, we could be paid a bit more. And this is not an attack on Takealot. Like, Takealot has done a lot for e-commerce in South Africa, and they provide a really great service that really wasn't available in South Africa prior to them existing. Not to the degree that they do it. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm attacking Takealot here or anything. I don't understand the process, so I couldn't attack them, even if I was, because I have no grounding to stand on. But back to the drivers, like I say, their biggest complaint is like not being paid enough. And to their credit, like Takealot does do a few things to look after drivers. So I think there's like emergency response and like personal insurance or something like that while they're on the road. And one or two other things I'll throw up a screenshot. But it bugs me that the whole gig economy vibe, right? Because these drivers are listed as driver partners, which means that they're not salaried employees, which means that they don't get any benefits of being an employee. But they're not self-employed because they don't set the terms of their employment. They just pitch up at the warehouse, do a parcel run, and if they have time in the day, they'll go back to the warehouse and do that again. And that's not exactly great for like a work experience, for your health, especially on the road, because you're at risk and because you're sitting all day. But yeah, so like drivers have to contribute their own car. They have to do their own, like provide their own airtime for an app that Takealot provides them with. So there is some sort of back-end information going on there. And petrol and all of these things. And like, I didn't ask any of them what they earn because that's not my place to know. But if I look at like job listings, and I'll throw up a couple again, this is all obviously like ad hoc information, but it looks like it can be around 400 Rand a day. And when you cater in that they need to pay for like airtime, petrol, all of those things, that's not really a lot of money. So how do we go about improving this? Well, I think the first thing that is pretty easy to do is just say thank you to your drivers when they pitch up, because they're working hard. Being on the road is stressful. So just make sure you're there during the day to make their lives a little bit easier. Secondly, should Takealot look at implementing a system like this to make the lives of drivers easier, to make customers' lives easier? Why haven't they done something like this? I'm not judging. I'm sure they have their reasons, right? If that reason is only profit, then maybe that's not a great reason. People are like terrified of an AI taking over the world and making all our decisions, but there is already a thing making all our decisions, and that is profit motivation. So, I don't know.
He's just a little crazy. He's a little crazy.
And thirdly, Takealot offers free delivery over 450 Rand, which a lot of people go for and makes sense. But how would you guys feel if Takealot charged a flat delivery fee, knowing that that money would go to the driver? How would you guys feel if we could tip our delivery driver the same way we do with like food delivery apps? We don't need to tie the tip to a delivery address, and maybe drivers are only aware of their tips at the end of the day or after their shift, so they don't have that influence their day or their attitude towards certain customers, because we're human and that happens. I'd really like to know what you guys think about this, because, these guys pretty much make the world go round. Delivery drivers are a integral part of our economy. Like, we saw what happened with lockdown when, was it the Suez Canal?
Better Google it.
We saw what happened when the Suez Canal got blocked with the Evergreen ship. Like, it's a big deal. So, thank your delivery drivers, and hopefully we can do something going forward that improves our lives and the lives of delivery drivers. Anyway, guys, it's just about 5 o'clock. That is my pajama project for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I'll see you guys in the next one. I don't know if you can hear it, but they're blasting like this kiddies tune. It's like this old combi that sells ice creams. And all power to them. But it's terrifying because the audio quality of the thing is so bad. It's like the nightmare truck. It'll pass.